So I'd genuinely be happy with top 5 here. No, not even 5. Which of course now you'll look back when I'm getting in a strop because I finished 3rd. So I should fucking what? Fuck. Then I'll look like a mug. Hi everyone, Nick here, and today we're looking back at another F1 2020 league race. And this time we're at the Bahrain International Circuit, which unsurprisingly is home of the Bahrain Grand Prix. Now, as I've just mentioned in the previous scene, I don't have an amazingly good track record around Bahrain, but I'm feeling confident at the moment in terms of how well I'm doing. So I was hoping that I could do a little bit better than normal. Wasn't thinking I was going to crush everyone and stroll to a victory or anything like that. No, that was definitely not going to be on the cards. I still think that Tony had the edge on, well, pretty much the entire field here, really. So I think realistically I was expecting him to get the pole and get the win, but the plan was to be best of the rest. Qualify second, finish second, and you never know. Maybe Tony will make a mistake, maybe DNF, maybe you'll get penalties and I'll be able to jump him on that or something like that. You never know. Anyway, into qualifying, and in a shock turn of events, we had a dry quali and a dry race to look forward to. I know, Bahrain, dry, who'd have thought it? Anyway, our first run was, well, it was steady, it was okay. We'd been doing 25.7s in practice, and I knew that if I was going to get anywhere near pole, I needed to do that again. So my first lap being a 1:26.0 was at that point good enough for second, but was nearly 3/10 off. Not ideal. My second run was looking okay. We're a little bit up going through the end of sector 1, but then the start of sector 2, we're just not really getting a line through there, right? And we're a couple of tenths down going through the hairpin, and we weren't ever really able to catch any of that time up, and ended up missing out on setting a new fastest lap. So we had to go again. We were down to 4th place on the grid by this point, so an improvement was very much needed. So down into turn 1, I break around 125 metres, at least in qualifying I do, and it's just really tricky to try and get the car turned as much as possible so you can then just nail it through turn 2 and turn 3 and get down this straight. Use as much of a runoff on the left hand side to widen the corner up, get it turned in nice and early, and then get on the throttle. Don't use as much of a curb on there as possible. This bit I find really tricky. You go down to 5th, up to 6th, and you just have to nail it down to the hairpin. Brake, there's a blue bit on the left hand side, I think that's roughly where I brake. Down to 2nd gear to get it turned. This corner is just the worst corner. I just find it so difficult. You sort of brake and turn, and not locking up is an absolute nightmare, but we've got a decent enough exit, so that's not too bad. Again here, about 75 metres, turn in and then get on the throttle as early as you can. And we've gained quite a bit of time doing that. Avoid the curb of death on the right hand side because it means actual death. And we've got a purple middle sector. We're nearly 2/10 up. It's not going to be good enough for pole, but it's going to get us onto 2nd place. So, last corner, use as much track on the left hand side as we can without invalidating. Don't touch the curb on the inside, throttle on nice and early. We get a good exit. We're going to beat our previous best by over 2/10, and it's a 1:25.809 to go into 2nd place. However, unfortunately for us, CJ was able to do a 25.774 and was able to jump us, which was quite frustrating, as throughout practice I'd been consistently hitting 25.7s and low 25.7s. So if I'd hit what I'd been doing in practice, I'd have been 2nd. As it was, I was going to be 3rd behind someone who was very quick. Not ideal. Anyway, here we go, the start of the race. The lights have gone out. We've got an okay start. We're going to use Richfield and overtake to try and see if we can do well off the line. We're kind of alongside CJ. We're going to break a little bit later than him, but he's on the inside and he's run a little bit wide. Kind of forces us wide a little bit, but it doesn't really make much difference. And then there's all sorts of shambles behind us, and that is a virtual safety car. So yeah, that's all been diffused rather quickly, hasn't it? at this point we turn the rich fuel and all that kind of stuff down, because obviously there's no point in burning rich fuel or indeed any ERS behind a virtual safety car. And it's fortunately not a very long virtual safety car, but our delta is, well, at that point was well over a second, so we want to make sure we get vaguely close, but we lose a bit of momentum there. And at this point I'm thinking, right, CJ in front, obviously we want to get past him, but Blarg behind us is less than 2/10 behind. We do not want to make this more difficult and let him past, because I think he's really quick around Bahrain, so there's a good chance that if he gets ahead we're going to struggle to get past him again. So it's one of those tricky ones where I want to get after the car in front, but I also don't want the car behind. I can't lose focus on the fact that they are speedy and are not very far off. So we're going through here, we've got rich fuel, and we're going to use some overtake as well down this last sort of little straight down into the final corner. And we've got about a 6/10 gap to the car in front, and had similar going into the last corner. We've got a little bit faster through that last corner, and that's going to keep us safe for this first lap at least. Indeed, we were able to stay in third for pretty much the first opening laps fairly easily. I felt like, not necessarily that CJ was holding me up or anything like that, but I did feel like that we were on similar pace, if not maybe I was a tiny bit faster, I don't know, something like that. And it was starting to very much feel like it was going to be a 3-horse race for the podium, the way that it was shaping up early on. The only problem was I was, as per usual, struggling to get anywhere near CJ down the straights. He did say afterwards that he wasn't running one of his special massively low drag setups, but he still was pretty slippery in a straight line. And you can see here, lap 7, we're still within half a second of him. As the stint went on, I felt like I was doing a little bit better. My tyre wear was really good, and that was potentially going to help, except it wasn't, because Miles unfortunately crashed out, and that brought out a virtual safety car. And as you can see, we're going around the last corner, we're due to pit in the next lap or two, so it's an absolute no-brainer for us to all come straight into the pits. And this obviously is in one way good, because it means that I get a cheap pit stop and guards us against anyone who is doing the one stop behind us. But it also means that that whole thing of me saying I felt like my tyres were wearing better than the cars in front, and that maybe I could use that to my advantage and maybe do something like an overcut and they get held up in traffic. Yeah, that's not going to happen now, because everyone's come in at the same time. So that was slightly frustrating. Another thing that's slightly frustrating as well is coming out of the pits, basically just being thrown out into the first corner, and you basically almost automatically straight underneath the delta, which is just, yeah, really annoying, and it just means you lose all momentum. But fortunately we've come out in 6th place ahead of Stefano on his hard tyres, and we're still just behind CJ, albeit we've got a couple of cars in front of us who haven't stopped. So at this point it's going to be all about seeing how we can navigate that traffic, and can we not lose contact with CJ in front. Case in point, you can see here, end of lap 8, CJ is right on Owl's tail and has gone past him pretty much as soon as possible. We've got DRS, we've got the ERS on, we've got rich fuel, and we're going to have a go up the inside of Owl. However, he breaks a little bit later than us, and even though we're on the inside, he's been able to get the inside line for turn 2. So that means he's able to get the place back. But then we've got the DRS on the next corner, and we've got the inside line as well, so we're able to get ahead, get the place done, and he slots in behind, and that's the job done. But it has cost us a little bit of time, because it's taken us an extra corner or so to be able to get past Owl. And that potentially could, you know, if we keep on losing time compared to CJ as we're going through these corners, then it could maybe hurt us. See here, Holm is being overtaken by CJ in front, but this time, because we lost a little bit of time earlier on in the lap overtaking Owl, we're not able to try and get past Holm this time like we did last time on Owl. And even here, though, even though we've got the DRS, we're not close enough, so we don't use the fuel or ERS to try and get past, and we're just consigning ourselves to a lap, probably a whole lap, behind Hom, because even there is a DRS zone halfway through the lap, it's quite tricky to overtake there, unfortunately. So end of lap 10, and we are right on Hom's tail. Probably don't even really need the DRS here, but we use it anyway, and absolutely breeze past him. Haven't done that for a little while. So yeah, up into 4th place at this point. We've got Tony, CJ ahead of us, and Hags, who has not pitted, at the front of the train. So we're up into 4th, and you can see we're over a second behind CJ now, so we're not going to be getting DRS off of him at this rate. So we need to push. We've got to push and try and get on his tail. And that was something we were able to do, because by the end of lap 11 we'd been able to get that gap under 1 second, and we put everything on to try and get really, really close to him. And I really surprised myself by getting really, really close to him. You can see we're really gaining down this straight, and it's a quarter of a second by the time we're going through turn 1. And CJ goes a little bit wide through there. Looks like he might have had a little bit of a wobble there, so it's not the best exit. So we think, okay, well, maybe this is going to be our chance. So we whack all of our goodies on. We go for the outside line. We leave CJ with room on the inside. But because of that, we're going to have the inside line to the next bit. We get a good exit out of that corner, and we got the move done, and we're up into 2nd place. And I was really happy with that, because I felt like, I don't know, I just felt like my pace on the mediums was good. It was really solid, and I felt like getting past him really quickly. Like, I only got past the other cars a lap before, so to get through this quickly was really important. And the one thing I needed to make sure I didn't do was hand him the place back. So everything on, even though I'm ahead at this point, he's going to have DRS down that little straight, but we're going to make sure he doesn't get a sniff up the inside into that left-hander. So lap 14, and we are trying to close in on Tony in the lead. We've got the gap to less than 3 seconds now. However, it's another virtual safety car, so that's the 3rd virtual safety car we've had so far in this race. And this one, on the surface of it, isn't going to necessarily cost us too much. It's not in a pit stop phase. It's not going to let someone else really gain too much in terms of tyre wear. Maybe it'll extend it a little bit and maybe make the rest of the race a little bit easier on tyres, but not really. The Delta, though, was really, really tricky. I say this so many times, but you can see we're going through the hairpin and it just suddenly shoots into red. So we lift off to not do that, and suddenly we've lost nearly a second. So now we've got a gap of almost 4 seconds up to Tony ahead of us, and CJ's only 4 tenths behind us, coming up into a DRS zone. So this is really, really bad, because we'd worked so hard to get past CJ, to get the gap to Tony ahead to less than 3 seconds, and to nearly break the DRS back to CJ. And now we'd had loads of that work that we'd all done, all gone. And I knew that I had to try and make sure that I stayed ahead of CJ. So we go Richfield and overtake there, but you can see we're running out of overtake. We've only got 7% ERS left at this point, and the gap is only about 6 tenths. And CJ's going to have DRS here, and at the time I thought this would be enough. I thought it would be okay. So we've got no ERS on, and we've got the Richfield on, but you can see with the arrows, it's too late. CJ just absolutely flies up the inside, gets the job done, no problem. We don't have any chance of doing a switchback, and then as we accelerate out there, yeah, okay, we've got DRS, but we're nowhere near, and we don't have the ERS to try and attack him. And yeah, that was really frustrating, because I don't know, I probably just messed up behind the virtual safety car Delta, but without that I think we were on the brink of getting the gap so that he wouldn't be able to do that. Anyway, when we were behind, we had to then try and attack, and again we were going to use as much Richfield and overtake as we could, but we weren't able to have as much a good run. As you can see here, lap 17, we try and go up the inside, but it was going to need a bit of a send, and I didn't want to do that. I thought, you know, maybe we'll have a better chance towards the end of the race. Maybe there'll be some tyre wear type things. Maybe we can do something around that. But at this point, we were really starting to think, okay, how are we going to do this? He's possibly a little bit too fast for us when unless we catch him unawares down the straight. That's the thing anyway. So fast forward to a lap 19, and at this point I was thinking my tyres are okay, but I was thinking about the next pit stop. I had a fresh set of softs because I went softer on the tyre compound strategy, so I thought I can go early, and if CJ doesn't come in here, I'm coming in. And he came in, and I probably did want to pit on that lap, but I didn't want to just follow him into the pits. I didn't want to follow him and do whatever he did. I thought that would be a really good way to guarantee that I finish behind CJ. And then as we go through the lap, we thought, let's pump in a really good lap time. But of course, there's another virtual safety car, because why wouldn't there be another virtual safety car? So that's the 4th virtual safety car. And this one, I don't know if it really makes any difference, because obviously we're trying to bomb it around on our in lap, but we get held up. But then CJ is obviously going to be bombing it around on his out lap. So maybe it's not really going to make any difference, but it's annoying nonetheless. Would it be nice to have been one of those really long ones to maybe keep us under virtual safety car conditions till we get to the pits and maybe get a little bit of a cheaper pit stop? But no, obviously it finished before we got to the last corner, and we duly came in at the end of that lap to see if we could come out, well, anywhere near CJ. Would we be able to have got the overcut done? So we were whacking our lovely fresh softs on to go to the end of the race, hopefully pumping some good times. But in terms of whether we could stay behind CJ, well, he's coming down the pit lane now, and he is ahead of us, and that gap is more than the roughly 1 second it was when we pitted anyway, or when CJ pitted rather. So yeah, we have not done the right strategy there, and because we had fresh softs, maybe what I should have done is the opposite and come in 1 lap earlier. Well, we'll see. Anyway, the idea at this point was to try and get as far up the grid as possible. We overtook Beckford when he pitted on the previous lap, and Blarg was going to pit on this lap as well, although I think we'd have probably had him anyway down into turn 1 with the DRS, and that was us back up into 4th. We had Hags ahead because he had just been overtaken by CJ, and Hags was on a 1-stop strategy. He'd gone soft medium, so these mediums were not particularly fast, and with people coming at him with fresh softs, he was really struggling for pace, and CJ had got past him reasonably early through that first corner and the DRS straight, so I was really keen to try and get past him as soon as I could. And this meant I probably pushed a bit too hard and started doing silly things. So look here, we get a really good exit, and I was contemplating trying a move up the inside there, but it's just really stupid to even think about it, and I've probably lost a little bit of time doing that. And then again here, we've got the DRS, we've got rich fuel, we use overtake, and we're going to think about a move up the inside here, and we go for it, but because I don't really like overtaking up there, and because it's not really a sharp corner, I've probably just slowed down a bit there and basically just taken the corner slowly. Hags has been able to get around the outside with no real problem there, and I've just really held us both up there. And you can see the gap to CJ is now nearly 2.5 seconds. So this is just silly stuff from me, really. And again, look, we just go up, think about a move up the inside into the last corner. Why? We've got a really good opportunity to go up the inside here. So just wasting time. But you can see bottom of the screen, Rye has retired, and as we just go past Hags, there is a full safety car. So obviously race control got bored of the 4 virtual safety cars and thought it was about time for a full one at the start of lap 24. And this was going to be good because it was going to close the gap to the cars in front, but it stayed out forever, and it wasn't until the end of lap 27 that the safety car actually came in. And this was really bad because, well, firstly, it meant I only had 2 laps to try and overtake CJ ahead. Secondly, there was going to be no DRS because it gets enabled after 2 laps after the safety car, and there was only 2 laps left, so you can't be after that. And my attempts at having fresh softs and being good at tyre wear, well, they don't matter if you spend so long behind the safety car. So we couldn't do anything into turn 1. This was going to be a possible opportunity. But the problem was, even though we now had loads and loads of EOS and loads of fuel, so did CJ. He'll have saved all that up behind the safety car, no doubt. And it means that we're not really going to have much of a pace advantage going down the straights. So when we come round the last corner for a penultimate time and go into the last lap, you see CJ doesn't have a great exit there, a little bit wide. We've got rich fuel, we've got ERS onto overtake. Nothing. We don't gain anything. And if this was one lap earlier for the safety car, we'd have had DRS. And then that would have been a very, very different story, I think. We'd have at least, I reckon, got alongside and then maybe down here. But we just not got a great exit through turns 2 and 3. And CJ's able to get a good run out of there. We have a bit of a wobble there, just trying too hard. And that, I'm afraid, is going to be that. As we come out onto the final sector of the last lap, we've got one corner. We're not going to get up the inside here unless CJ has an absolute nightmare through here, which he doesn't. He keeps it nice and steady, and we are going to finish behind him and finish third. And as you can see, I'm delighted with a top 5 and in no way annoyed with third. Oh well. Anyway, it's a podium, so that, as you know, I mentioned I don't have a great track record around Bahrain right at the start of this video. That's my best race result in Bahrain for ages, and I was still frustrated because I felt like I could have got second, but realistically, when you look back at it, it's a good podium. It's a good result to start third and finish third. You can't really complain too much. In terms of a championship, we lost a bit of ground to Tony in the lead, but we're still in second place, and there's still a long way to go in the championship. So, you know, there are stronger tracks that we'll be racing on at some point in the near future, so hopefully we can maximise our point scoring in those. So what have we learned from the Bahrain Grand Prix? I don't know, really. I think one thing I've learned is that the virtual safety car is really, really annoying and should just go away sometimes. We've had quite a few races this season where it's just been wall-to-wall safety cars. It can be frustrating, it can be helpful, especially if you're towards the back of the grid or the field, and it helps you catch up if there's a bit of a gap. But sometimes it can be a bit frustrating to just basically rob the race of any kind of strategy. And if you're good at tyre management, it doesn't really matter if you spend a lot of time being slow behind safety cars. But I guess I just have to deal with it. It's the same for everyone. Everyone else is behind the safety car as well, and it affects them as well. So yeah, maybe I just need to get over it and deal with it. Anyway, that's the end of this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, then don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know below in the comments what you thought of the video. It is massively appreciated. It really helps the channel if you do it, so thank you very much in advance. If you want to catch up with me on social media, then Twitter and Instagram are the places to go. I'm Alfred Bulbasaur on both of those places, and you can find me on Twitch every Wednesday and Sunday doing these league races. Name is Alfred Bulbasaur on there as well, and details on the screen, and details of all the different places you can find me, including Discord where we hang out between videos, are in the description below the video. Until next time, and the next video, goodbye.